This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Good morning and welcome back onto the Morning Majlis. Now, we're going to be talking about face masks. Now, a couple of studies, couple of new technology has been out there that says that they're working on a face mask that could detect your coronavirus situation as well. And that would be an interesting one that's being developed and tested by some parts of the world. We are wearing our normal surgical face masks. Sometimes we get creative. We get to the cloth mask as well. And there's also a couple of masks that you might have seen in supermarkets with Fine branding on it, so Fine Guard as well. And people are considering, always thinking, am I less secure than what you're wearing, or am I not cool enough to buy a mask like that? Is it more of an effort to make sure that your mask is clean as well and washed? Because if you're getting that Fine Guard face mask as well, you might have to keep it for longer. So we'll be discussing all of this and breaking it down for you, as we have here with us joining us on the lines, live on the lines, is Michael Lafferty, the CEO of Fine Hygienic Holding. A very good morning to you, Michael.
Thank you for having me, Ahmed, Abdul, and Rania. It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you on board with us. Now, the big question is, a lot of people have seen these fancy masks in the supermarkets compared to our surgical mask. What's the big difference? What is this Fine Guard that is available to the public at the moment?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, to keep it simple, there's two ways a mask can protect you. The traditional way was filtering a virus out or a bacteria out. And so it was all about filtration levels. And that can work. There are some flaws, and there are many viruses, at least in size, that are smaller individually than the filtration level of the mask. So it's not 100% perfect. But you have some big problems with these filtration masks. The first is breathability. I think anyone who's worn an N95 and tried to do a run or tried to do an elliptical trainer or went to the gym, they understand. It's incredibly difficult to pull the air through given the high level of filtration. So that's problem one, which is a big problem, because if it's not comfortable, I've noticed people don't wear the mask right if it's not comfortable. And that's why you see many people with the mask below their nose, on their chin. Well, you might as well just take the thing off, because it doesn't work. The second issue is germs do collect and grow on the surface of a surgical mask or any non-treated mask. And there was a study done by one of the leading medical journals, Lancet, in April of 2020, which showed that coronavirus lived up to 7 days on the exterior of a typical surgical mask. We have done research with Starbucks in Europe with our Fine Guard masks, and the viral and bacterial load on a typical Starbucks worker who is engaging with customers and breathing all day in an open environment, the bacterial load was about 500 times higher than you would want on the outside of their mask. So the mask itself can become a vehicle of infection. And so those are the issues, but filtration has been with us for a long time, and it is effective. The second is this all new technology that has come out in this pandemic, which is neutralizing viruses and bacteria. And it works off a simple premise. The membrane of all viruses and bacteria is negatively charged. And so if you use positive charges, you can grab and then disable and kill a virus just through the positive charge. And so what we do with our mask basically is we add positive charges into the fabric. It's completely safe and non-toxic. And as a virus passes near, it is grabbed by that almost magnetic attraction, and then it is neutralized and killed. So that the mask remains germ-free because it's neutralizing mask, and you get a much higher rate of kill. And with that, I can make much thinner masks. I can make masks that are easier to breathe in, which means people will wear them for longer and wear them more effectively. And this is one of the benefits of the pandemic, is new technologies have rapidly emerged in the germ and disinfection arena that are going to help us for generations to follow.
And how often should we change our masks in general?
Well, it depends. If you're wearing a disposable mask, which we obviously don't recommend, just from the standpoint, we live in this beautiful city of Dubai, every time I run around the marina and I see floating masks, I want to cry.
Oh,
And, we are creating a solid waste issue with masks and gloves that we're going to have to deal with. They've already quantified in the Mediterranean, there's more masks now in the ocean than there are jellyfish. I mean, we basically have polluted the Mediterranean with used masks.
yeah.
If you're using a disposable, which I would never recommend, you should dispose it every 8 hours.
Okay.
And that's the recommended dosage. Now, if it's a cloth mask, it's all about wash frequency, and that gets into, is it a treated mask like Living Guard, the Fine Guard mask, which is killing the germs? And then you have to look at sweat rate and basically how long were you wearing it and the dust conditions that you were in. We recommend washing at minimum of once a week.
Something I've seen really often nowadays with people getting vaccinated, a lot of people now, they're saying that there's no need to wear a face mask. I'm vaccinated. I'm fully vaccinated. I'm fine. I'm guarded. What is your message to those people? Why is wearing masks for vaccinated people still important?
Obviously, the Dubai government and the UAE government has maintained mask wearing regulations, which has been incredibly smart because there's a number of factors. The first is this virus is no different than any other virus. It's mutating at a constant rate and new variants are emerging, like the Delta variant coming from India.
Yeah.
I mean, Delta, we're already seeing a varying effect of it, of the vaccines against Delta. Some are better than others.
Right.
Some vaccines are worse than others. I have some employees in the company. We've noticed that people that have gotten COVID in the last 2 weeks got one particular vaccine. It wasn't as effective as another form of vaccine.
Right.
On top of that, with 30, 40, 50, depends upon the country, 30, 40, 50% of people haven't been vaccinated. They are still at high risk, and you can still carry the virus even if you've been vaccinated.
That's
you
right.
can still be a carrier. So I think when we look at respecting our community and respecting other people, we have to still continue masks in certain situations, even if we've had both doses of a vaccine and we have a good antibody level.
It's a very important note you just said out there that even though you are vaccinated, you can still be a carrier to those that are not vaccinated. And that is the key takeaway here. Absolutely. Yeah.
And James, I got a question for you. You've pretty much established that your masks have this filtration technology, that they're good for the environment. Can you talk about how the market has responded? Is there a big demand for those special masks?
Well, we've sold many millions of masks, and we've been very successful with it. We were also quite early. I mean, back in January, it's a great story. I called a virologist friend of mine, and this was when we were only talking about COVID, and everyone was saying you don't need masks. And I called this virologist friend who had seen the data, and he said, let me tell you something. Now, it doesn't matter what the WHO and everybody's saying right now. Here are the facts. Fact number one, there's at least 50,000 people in Wuhan, China who are sick. If the 50,000 people are sick, they didn't get this from doorknobs. They picked it up by breathing it in. This is an airborne virus. And he said, I don't care what anyone says, it's airborne. Now, I understand why people say it's not. They don't want to panic you, but let's deal with reality. This thing's airborne. If it's airborne, the number one thing to do is not wash your hands. That's important, but the number one thing to do is to cover your nose and mouth. He said, you've got to get into masks. And I launched the mask end of January when basically nobody had masks. And we were the first out there with a antiviral mask, leveraging this technology called Living Guard out of Switzerland, which treats textiles and turns any textile into a germ-killing textile. And so it's something you can put on your clothes, you can put on your couches and cushions. So when people come and visit you, you don't have to worry about residual germs after they've left. And so that's the technology, and that's how it came about. And so we've been very successful now. The market has been flooded with many different types of masks, and that's fine. But the people that are still discriminating and say, I want protection, and I also want to protect the environment, and I don't want to have a mask that's actually a carrier of disease, are still buying our masks. Some people have gone to surgical masks. I mean, we respect everyone's individual choice, but I think, again, when you look at value for money because our mask lasts for a year, 1 year versus changing a mask every day. When you look at the environmental impact and you look at the protection, it's an easy choice. I mean, I wear our sports mask every day. This is a mask that's so breathable, I can run a 10K wearing the mask, and I still have 99% protection. So why would I wear anything that's more restrictive, more inhibiting, and more dangerous to our planet?
And we're talking about masks, but we've also seen the emergence of other technologies during COVID-19 to help keep people safe. Is that something that you've done as well at Fine Hygienic Holding? Are you developing other products to help combat the spread of COVID besides masks?
Yeah, we've gone into the broad disinfection area. Now, the disinfectants were here long before COVID, and they're going to be here long after COVID. It's just the COVID brought huge emphasis on germ protection and viral and bacterial protection. Now, the history of business in the world is a simple concept. People accept the current state of affairs, the status quo, because they don't have a choice. So before the airplane, we knew that if you wanted to go from the US to the UK, it was a 1-week cruise. You just had to live with it. That was it. And then the airlines come along with airplanes and air travel, and people suddenly say, I'm not going to spend 7 days on a ship. Forget it. I want to fly now. The same is true in disinfection. These products today that were out there were incredibly ineffective because they kill the germs for like 1 to 2 to 3 minutes. So if you put a normal gel sanitizer on, it kills all the germs, very effective, alcohol-based. But 2 minutes later, you shake hands with someone who's been coughing into their hand, you're reinfected. It only works for literally minutes, and we have accepted this because we had no other option. But now, again, with this crisis, that the days of those products are numbered because you can now offer, we have a hand sanitizer, one application, 24 hours. When we went to a government in the world with that product, they said, we don't believe you. And we said, test it. So they tested it. What did they say at the end of the test? This product's amazing, and can we order 5,000 units for all of the government employees? I mean, it's shocking, but you only have to use a hand sanitizer once a day. Disinfecting a table. If you spray a table today with a standard disinfectant, and then 5 minutes later, someone comes in and coughs in that room, you've got new germs settled on the table alive and colonizing. These products that you now use, it's 21-day continual protection with a microscopic layer of protection. So this world is changing, and we have found a technology out of New Zealand that does 21-day protection on surfaces, 24 hours on your hands, that we have launched in the market. We didn't invent it, but we found it, we licensed it. And it's amazing technology that, again, changes your life. With my kids, they just put it on once a day, and when they go to school, I don't worry about them forgetting to put their hand sanitizer on. Once they've applied it at 8 a.m., they're protected for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. So this is really life-changing stuff.
It's great to see these new technologies out there, but I want to come back to the masks, and I'm looking at the price for it because, if anyone's listening would be thinking, oh, you know what, I could do this. Now, it's above 170 dirhams retailing on those popular online stores for the time being. What's the demand been like in terms of units sold? Because if we were to have more than 5 members of the family buying this is a cost of about 600 dirhams, and it is quite costly for a single family as opposed to buying these disposable masks. So where does the argument lie, and how many units have been sold so far, and who's really buying these?
Well, we have a lot of different masks. I mean, $179, the only product we sell at that price is our sports mask, which is 2 masks in the box. And the reason we give you 2 is because of sweat rate. If you're going to use it in the gym, you might want to change out your mask like you would change out a t-shirt. So our price per mask roughly in the UAE is about 70 dirhams a mask. Now that 70 dirhams is with a 12-month life. So you have to divide that by 365. If you compare that to the daily cost of a disposable, it is less than half the price. I mean, I can do the math for you right now. We can pull out a calculator and do it, but there is no comparison between, in terms of cost of using a Fine Guard or even any reusable mask versus a disposable. Now, there are people who don't throw the disposable away. And so they say, well, I don't do the 8 hours, I do a week. Maybe that gets you then to be cheaper, but it's also quite risky knowing what's happening on the outside of that mask on a microscopic level and how germs are not dying. The takeaway from the Lancet study was very simple. The COVID virus adores surgical mask material. It lives longer on a surgical mask than it does on a table. So, that's straight out from Lancet, April 10th, 2020 research that was published worldwide. So, all in all, there's really no comparison if you do cost per day, which is how anyone should evaluate a mask. What's the cost per day?
Makes sense. Well, now we're expecting a better outlook as well, a future outlook of their popularity. Do you think you'll eventually see more and more people now? Because wearing face masks is just is a norm now. We can't get away with it. It's like wearing a coat. So do you think this is where do you see the popularity of similar masks or even this Fine Guard growing in the coming years?
Well, I think the peak of masks is gone.
Okay.
So the peak when there was a high level of concern, those days are gone. And our mask business, if you look at total category on retailers like Amazon, it has dropped significantly. So the mask, people have their masks, and let's face it, nobody likes to wear a mask. I mean, I'm in the mask business, and I don't like wearing masks.
Nobody.
I'm paid to like masks. I should love them. I should adore it. I don't want to wear the mask. So the mask market has peaked, in my belief, permanently. Now it'll be at an elevated level versus pre-pandemic for many years to come, but the whole market is shifting. Our number one seller now is the sports mask because people are less panicky. The N95 that we used to sell, it's a great mask, but you can't breathe in this. I hate the N95. I mean, I sit there and pant and I sweat. You sit in meetings and you sweat, you lose your breath in the middle of a discussion. And so what we've seen is everyone is moving to the sports mask, which is the one I think that you were referring to, that it's sold per box for $179. That is really the future, which is comfort. If we're going to get people to wear masks right, we have to give them products that work. We can't anymore say to people, you just have to put up with it because I know you can't breathe, but breathing is overrated and you should just wear the mask. I mean, we need to come with products like our sports mask, which is an incredible product, single layer. I mean, we've got multiple Olympic athletes going to Tokyo wearing it. The entire Olympic team, like the Philippines, is wearing that mask at the Olympics. That's an incredible product that we've had multiple NBA teams in the U.S. come to us on. We've sent them samples and data because you can literally do a full workout and you don't lose your breath.
This is great. Well, sadly, that's all the time that we have for this, as we've got the business headlines fast approaching. Michael Lafferty, thank you very much for joining us this morning and elaborating and even enlightening us with the world of face masks.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's been a great pleasure and honor.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Well, you are listening to Michael Lafferty, who is the CEO of Fine Hygienic Holding, talking to us all things face masks and why new technology and new ways of breathable face masks that also kill the virus are also crucial. But one takeaway that we took back from it is that a virus lives on a surgical mask material longer than that of a table. So, interesting facts to take back as well. Stay with us on the Morning Majlis. We shall return right after the business news headlines. You're listening to the Morning Majlis only on Pulse 95.
If you liked this episode of the Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories. Pulse.